a lot of the time we'd be interested into more than just hacking into the website. So at the moment we can read, write, download, modify files on the current web server. But a lot of the time what actually interests us is data that is stored in the database. So things like usernames and passwords, you won't see them into files. They'll actually be stored into the database. So if you want to see these things, if you want to have access to them, you have to hack into the database. Most of the programs, for example, DVWA, Matilda, and real-world programs like WordPress, they all connect to the database to store stuff in it. And in order to be able to connect to the database, they do that through a file called config. So there's usually, it'll be called config.php, cfg.php, or something similar to that. So the first thing you want to do is you want to locate that file and read its content. So this is what we're going to do. This is going to be our step one. So we are in var www.dev. So I'm just going to go to dvwa. So I'm going to go back once and go to dvwa. And then I'm going to list. And you can see that we have a directory called config. So we're going to open that directory. And we're going to list. And you can see that we have a file called config.inc.php. So you can read that using the normal cat command. So you can literally just do cat config.inc.php and you'll be able to read the contents. A lot of the times when you do that, it's not going to work. So what you want to do is you can use a function that comes in with Weebly. Again, it's called file read, and it allows you to read the file using multiple methods. So if the normal cat method didn't work for you, you can use that function to read it. And let's see how we can use that function. So we're just going to do file read -h like we always do. And you can see that we have a number of vectors. So we can do an fread on it, we can do file get, and you can get it in base 64. So again, you can use that similarly to the ways that we were doing it before. So you just do -vector, and we're going to choose file, and then you select the file that you want to read, which is, again, it's called config.inc.php. And once we read this file, you'll see that it has information about how to connect to the database. So this file is actually used by the web application itself to connect to the database. So you always see these four things. You'll see that the host, and you can see that it's set to the local host here. You can see the database name, it's called DVWA, the username is root, and the password, and in this case it's blank. Chances are you won't see a root user and you won't see a blank password, so you'll probably have like some sort of a name in here, and you'll actually have a password in here. Once you have this information, you can connect to the database using an SQL shell. So if we go back to the help here, you'll see that we have two SQL modules. One of them is the SQL console, and this one will basically allow you to have an interactive SQL console where you can run any SQL statement, something similar to what we got with SQL map. This will not work in this case because our root user is not using any passwords, so it'll just not connect, but in normal cases it should work for you. The second example, which is the more useful example anyway, is the SQL dump. And this will basically dump the whole database into a file, and it'll download the file to your current computer so that you can open it and read the data normally using a text editor. So we're going to have a look on this example on the SQL dump. So using these modules is very similar to what we've been doing so far. So the SQL console is very similar to the module anyway. So we're going to do SQL dump. And we're going to do a -h to see how to use it. And you can see that the way to use it is you do SQL dump, you select the database type. You don't have to do that, we're not going to do it. You give it the host, so let's give it the host. And this is going to be localhost. Again, we're taking this information from here, from the config file. After the host, you want to give it the L path, and this is where the data is going to be saved in your local computer. So let's store it in root, and we're going to call it dvwa data.txt. And then you want to select the vector, So I'm going to leave this the way it is, and we're not going to modify that. And then you have to select the database. Again, we'll take this information from here. So the database is DVWA. Then you have to give it the user. So the user is root. And my password is blank. So again, the command is SQL dump, giving it the host, where we want to store the data. And then the database is DVWA, the user is root, password is blank. Hit enter. And I did something wrong here. I forgot to put -l path in here. Hit enter. And now it's telling us that this method has failed. So again, when something fails, we try a different vector. So let's try to use MySQL dump sh. So we're going to use the same command, but we're going to add -vector to it. And this is going to be MySQL dump sh. Hit enter. And as you can see now, this worked, and it's telling us that the data has been stored to root dvwa data.txt. So I'm going to go to my file manager, and I'm already in root. And you can see that we have a file here called dvwa data.txt. Double click the file. And right here we can see information about the whole database. So it might look like gibberish, but it's not. If you just have a closer look at it, you can see that you have the table structure. You have a table here called guestbook. You can see that this table has the following columns. It has a column called comment ID. It has a column called comment, and it has a column called name. And you can see that the primary key is the comment ID. Going down, you'll see that we have a table called users. You can see the columns are user ID, first name, last name, user, password, and avatar. And if you go down, you'll actually see the entries. So you can see that we have a user called admin, and this is their password. This is their working directory. Again, you have another user called Gordon. His second name is Brown, and this is his password. Now the passwords are encrypted, so you can go and try to decrypt these passwords. But again, this lecture just shows you how to gain access to the database and dump the whole database into a local storage and then browse it the way you want. These are actual dump files, so you can actually import them into PHPMyAdmin. So if you have a web application background, you can go to PHPMyAdmin, create a new database, and import this file into that database. It will automatically create a database with these tables, and you'll be able to easily navigate through this and read the data.